Yeah, let's get right into it. Market recap show. Thank you there, Shawn. And that's right. Shawn's at the desk, and he's here with a tan as well. But thank you, Adara, for setting some things up. You know, we're live trading, getting right into things. We're going to do a little bit of a recap like always. We got Daniel Shea coming through. There are some earnings expected. They're not massive names. Unity is expected after the bell drop box, but Mara typically a little bit later. So Mara might not report till about 4:30. You know, we'll try to stick around and see if we get those numbers. Big short float, double digits expected for only Unity, I think 11% into the downside. So I want to just quickly get the lay of the land because obviously Flavius, Mara was like 8.7%. We'll get to that one if they do happen to report. But if you look overall, like the market, we always try to give you that overview of what each individual index is doing on ETF Watch here. And look, GDX, power moves, UNG, up strong. You see XLE in there. So most of the strength, it's not like it was over in our tech names and you had some strength in financials, but it was really a big banger out there for the really super volatile and not heavily day traded names. Like good luck if you're trading the Widowmaker over there in natural gas. Big shout out. We already talked about this. We had a little bit of a win there. Not a lot of follow through on CGC, but it got back above the $10 level. MSOS doing some big things. FXI looking great. But there you see it. SMH down today. ARC, obviously adjacent to that, going to be down. It was not a great day for tech. And you saw that right at the end of the day. Even Amazon, which just made and was holding an all-time high, ends up reversing it at the end of the day. I always find it interesting or nice when you can close above that all-time high. It's a great psychological thing because technically it's not a failed break there, Adara. But speaking of recap there, I know obviously today was one of those days where you had to be in the right name. There was no consistency in terms of where the strength was going to be, where the weakness was going to be. It was a little bit of everything, especially in the tech space. How was your day trying to navigate it?
I will admit, and I said this multiple times on the show, on the How to Trade in the midday, this was my worst trading day of the day by a decent margin, and a lot of it was just due to me continuing to try to make some trades in Celsius. I like the levels. Initially, the trades were okay. I saw levels I like, but I got back in, kind of panicked, didn't get out as quickly as I should have. I didn't get shut down or anything. I was able to manage risk okay-ish, but I'm just, you know, I definitely needed to like stop beating a dead horse at a certain point. I think that was the biggest issue there. I had some okay trades. I had Roblox, ended up doing okay with Starbucks. Quick 10-penny range. If you were just able to take it with enough shares and scalp it, that was okay. But it was certainly, I think, for me, a bit of a harder trade or harder day to trade, unless, you know, like I had like a couple small trades, Cheesecake Factory, some of these earnings plays, but struggled a little bit today.
So I'm going to give you, like, so first off, you didn't get shut down. That's great.
Thank you.
I'll tell you, like, I had a rough day today. There was actually a point today. So this morning, the morning show lost essentially what I was up yesterday, which I'm like, that's fine. I adhere to all my rules, and that's usually going to be the case. Like, did you have an outsized loss type of day? Like, you don't want to have the strategies that you train on a day-to-day basis. You don't want to be taking hits on them that are bigger, you know, than what you're averagely going to be able to make. But that's the important thing. That said, there was a point during lunchtime where I'm battling back. I got to like maybe like 1/3 of what I was down in the morning. And then from there, just sort of lost it all right back. And it happens to you. And really, most of it wasn't about the losses. It was about not maximizing the winners and trading them inefficiently because I was getting a little too much. I said this about GME. You know, like I was getting way too cute with GME and AMC. Like I'd have the win, and I'd hold for this monster move and then just let it get right back. Why? Because I was down. I'm like, if it goes, I'm going to get it all back on this one trade. And you can't really do that. So I love the fact that you were disciplined, didn't have the blowout losses. That's more important. But just, we'll get to some earnings. Remember, there's not a heck of a lot that we're expecting to report and let you guys know. But speaking of the Roblox, speaking about Roblox here, well, actually, no, we have it on there. Well, forget about it. We can get to Roblox later. I didn't realize we were going to do this after Danielle Shea because I know you put this together for us. So we can get to that a little bit later here on Roblox. But Blink looks like it's out. Thank you very much, Darwin. Not a gigantic one, Blink charging. That said, you know, a move is going to be a move. They did beat, but you know, sales beat as well, beat on the top and bottom. The issue with a stock like this is it's not that exciting if it's not going 10, 15%. So it's a $3 stock. The reason we're interested in Mara and Unity is those are day trades that we can get excited about. Whereas like I'm looking at Blink right here. It did break higher, and thank you, Darwin, for putting it in there in the chat. But it's still very much inside of the range and not a lot of volume going through in here on Blink. And it's not to say that we want to ignore any kind of a name.
Yeah.
But there's, as a trader, you have like on the good list and the bad list, volume, volatility-wise. Don't mind trading this one, but like to me, it's $3 stock. Got to be pushing 320, 330. Need that up 10%, up that 15% for sure. And don't get me wrong, it's got a good short float. But what do you need plus the short float? 22% short float? Well, let's pop it up on the daily. Let's go over it. Why not? Like we'll just do this live because that's what we do, and not a heck of a lot's happening. If you're going to scare shorts, then what do you got? You got to break something out. Right, so there's 325. I happen to have looked at Blink this week. That's why I kind of knew that.
I was going to say, yeah.
Okay, so I know sometimes I'll start talking to a chart, and it's like, well, you didn't even look at that chart. Why do you already know it's not breaking at a key level? So I'm in early in the mornings. I just go over charts, and I kind of remember some of this stuff. So I did actually see Blink because they reported this week, and it might have been yesterday that I looked at it at pre-market. And I was like, I know it's got to break the 330 and the 350 levels. Because you look at it one time and you remember something like that. But for something to be a short squeeze, it needs to have something happen that scares the shorts. Breaking 330, getting above like a 50 or 200 period moving average. Breaking 350, if we look at the chart here for a second, I don't know if the chart, there we go. Breaking 350 up here, then you can start to get that squeeze. That's going to be much more important. So maybe Mara doesn't want to wait. Some people are saying Mara's already out. I mean, it's kind of going up, kind of going up, kind of going up. It's starting to go 20, 30. I don't know if we have the numbers. I know you've got it. We'll wait patiently for you. But Mara looks like it is out. Thank you for reporting earlier than expected, Mara. Back above 20. Hold the 20 level because that's what I want for the long tomorrow. It's into the 2050s, but this is on a 3-minute chart. You have not really broken out of today's range. They've got the 20% short float. They just got added to the S&P 600, so they got some juice behind it, but it's got to break out the highs. If you stay inside of the range and you don't go past the expected, which was like 8.5% or 8.7% expected move, then you haven't done much. So we have had some movement on Mara here, but it's not really blowing it out of the water for me just yet. Do we have the numbers?
Yeah, we do, and the EPS beat is, in a word, wild. So we got $1.30 per share versus 22 cents expected. So to put that net profit terms for Q1 2024, net income was $337.1 million versus the estimated $53.1 million. That is a massive beat. They did miss on revenue though, however, $165.19 million versus the estimate of $180.7 million. So that is a little bit of a miss there for revenue. But I mean, that EPS number is so great. We'll have to see if people pay attention.
Yeah, one thing to always watch for the EPS is like sometimes when it's like really big, the next day they're like, we're not sure if that's actually comparable to the estimate. And so you'll see a lot of that, and then you don't get the reaction you want. But no breakout of the high on Mara. They're actually right back down into 1990. Shout out to you, Bears versus Bulls. Thank you for posting that. If you want to listen to the Mara earnings call, I kind of have the feeling that and Unity are the ones that most traders are going to be interested in for tomorrow. But no break of the high there on Mara, unfortunately. It's just a lot more exciting if it breaks at 2050. I do see SOUN is moving. It just broke the lows. That's now down 3%. So there might be out there SOUN. Again, another 20% short float name. Looks like they must be out and are headed to the downside pretty nastily here for SoundHound. Yeah, they're starting to flunk. SOUN to the downside. 20% short float would have been nicer if it went to the upside. We know CleanSpark is also going to be moving based on Mara. They already had theirs, but not a heck of a lot happening with CleanSpark because I checked that one out. Kind of feels like Mara, if you're not breaking out the top on a big EPS beat, that's not really a good thing.
No.
Yeah, and they're not really anxiously buying this one. It's already back testing some of these lows here on Mara. Needs to hold on to 1950. Bit of a gap fill underneath 1950. We are going to have Ms. Danielle Shea is going to be on.
Yes.
And as usual, there's like a wealth of things we can talk about with Danielle. I tend to get selfish because she always has fantastic opinions on what's coming up in earnings or how you want to react to earnings, especially when it comes to big tech. I think Tesla's kind of an important topic. Obviously, Microsoft for a lot of people is going to be a big one. We're going to have her on just in a couple of seconds there. But it looks like Mara Yeah, that's a nothing burger. That's a pretty hefty beat to not blow at the top.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned by that.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that the revenue miss has overwhelmed, or I guess because the revenue was so underwhelming, the EPS beat didn't matter as much. One thing I will say as well, though, too, we've talked about this kind of ad nauseum on the market recap, but sometimes it takes one aspect of the earnings report that people will react positively or negatively to, and at times it is going to be, that revenue miss overwhelming the fact that we did have a really good EPS beat. Also, I have not seen Soundhound yet. Oh, I just saw Soundhound. Never mind. As I say that, we get Soundhound.
You probably want to check JFrog because that is ribbit tanking right now. Ribbit. There was actually a rapper back in the day. His name was Froggy Frog, and I was actually he did songs with Nine, who was also part of like Redman's crew.
Okay, that's why I've heard that.
Froggy Frog. I have no idea what he's doing right now, but hopefully he doesn't own shares of JFrog, because if you do, you've just been smoked. And this is why we say trading in the aftermarket is a dangerous game. The initial move was a breakout that went 10%. If you chase said move, you are now out of the money double that, because it went upside and now you flunked through down to 36, looking pretty nasty there. We're still waiting on Unity. Unity's the only one that has yet to report, but I do believe we've got Danielle Shea ready to go. I do not want to make her wait any longer. Let's get right onto it. We've got Trader Talk. Miss Shea. There she is. Happy to see you. Love the sweater. Before we move on, what does that say? I'm curious.
Oh, thank you. It says, when life gives you lemons, trade options.
Okay. Oh, that's obvious trader humor.
That's awesome.
And I love it. And I'm not even an options trader. You know that. I'm just sort of like learning from you vicariously every single time we have you on here. But when life gives you lemons, who needs lemonade? That cool.
Thank you. I made it myself.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I'm making an Etsy store. It's coming soon.
So then when I say that line a few times on the show, then I get a free sweater, right?
Exactly. I'll send you whatever you want.
Not to put you on the spot, but we appreciate it. I think it's hilarious, and I'll say it every time. So speaking of options, earnings season is usually pretty big. Now, we don't have a lot of, there weren't a lot of huge names tonight. Unity hasn't come out yet. We just saw Mara kind of disappoint. JFrog's getting absolutely smoked. But we have had some big ones this week. And Roblox, I mean, we're going to talk about Roblox because I know Adara was trading it. But Roblox got absolutely smashed and then had a huge recovery. You had Shopify that got absolutely smashed. We're talking about moves that are, you always talk about like a little bit past the expected. Well, these are like double past the expected. That situation, is there a special case for when something is double the expected or approaching triple? Do you have an approach for that? And is there anything that stood out to you outside of those ridiculous moves we had?
Oh, definitely. So when you look at the options market, I mean, options are priced based off of the expected move. And so, you basically have two different setups you can do. You could either look at a ticker and you could say, hey, you know what? I'm going to bet on this staying within the expected move. And you can try to sell premium. That's actually what I did with Mara. So hopefully that move's actually looking good for me right now. Hopefully it stays that way. Or if there's twice the expected move, that's when you can really come in and you can trade it after the earnings report. So I think that that's perfect for day traders like you and your crowd. You just want to go into that earnings report. And even if you're not an options trader, you can look at the options chain in your platform and you can see what it was before the report. And if you can see that stock down twice the expected move, that tells you that there's a high level of volatility. And, typically with those tickers, they're going to keep going. Sometimes what you'll find is that they'll find a support zone and, you'll see a break higher the next day and you can actually trade it back to the gap level. But either way, it's going to depend on how it actually opens the next day. And if you get a breakout to the upside or the downside based on the 15-minute range.
Yeah, it feels like Roblox was just, it was so far down that it's almost like it had to catch a bid. Like it went to a level on the daily chart that was just so absurd. Like there almost had to be buyers down there because it's such well, anybody that has kids, it's like an exciting company because everybody's kids uses it. So you're like, well, my kid's all over it. Why wouldn't I buy the stock? But Mara, I want to get to because you mentioned you put a trade on in Mara. So just if you can briefly walk us through that one. I feel like with a 20% short float, the expected volatility on Mara was almost 9%. At least that's, And then last time its move was actually bigger than this, based on the numbers I see here. But so Mara, it's trading at the low end of the range now. It tried to break out the top, big EPS beat, and then revenue wasn't. So maybe it's kind of mixed, but it's trying to take out the bottom on Mara. What is your play here specifically?
So with Mara, Mara is a really high implied volatility stock. And so if you check out your options chain, you can see right here that the implied volatility is 239%, which, I mean, that's pretty high. If you're not sure if it's high or not, you just want to go out another month and compare the implied volatility. So for example, right now, 239%. In a month, it's 110%. So what that means is that those options are extremely juiced up. And, while it's possible it could have a massive short squeeze and you could make money buying the options, it's just not very likely. So typically with these kinds of tickers, what I do is I look at how much it historically moves, okay? And so with this tool, I can see the previous gaps that we've had over earnings. And in this case, with about a 9% expected move, I can see that over the course of the last 12 quarters, there's been a quarter all the way back here where it moved 15%, and then 2 quarters ago, it moved 13%. There was this one quarter right here where it moved 10%. But for the most part, the move is not anywhere near that big. And so on this ticker, because especially it's right between support and resistance, I just came in and I just sold an at the money iron condor. I have a couple different examples of this kind of trade on my YouTube channel. If you want to check it out, I just did one in Visa and I just did one in Hershey's as well. But basically what I did was I just sold the at the money calls and the at the money puts. I just bought some outer wings for protection. And I got a credit of $1.25. So basically what I need to see with the stock is I want to see the stock. It could go up, it could go down, but I'd like to see it move less than about $1.50. And then in that situation, if that happens perfectly, then these options that I sold for, basically $1 on each side, maybe tomorrow they're worth 50 cents. So I sell the premium and then the next day I try to buy it back for less. And then ideally that's how I make money. Now, if it moves like 20%, I'm going to lose money and I'll be wrong.
Well, there you go, and I appreciate that. And for anybody, if you're an absolute novice trading options, A, you can always replay that. B, it's at Trader Danielle on YouTube, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can always check that channel out, and there are introductory and some beginner videos as well if you're trying to just learn and don't want to be putting on obviously live trades just yet. We appreciate you walking us through that. So okay, so you got to play on in Mara, but okay, we just had most of the big cap tech earnings. We have to wait on Nvidia here. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about Tesla losing the 50 period on the daily today, the nice little bounce that it got. Looks like it's been abating, so we're back to the downward trend. I know you're a Tesla lover. Microsoft as well, losing the 50 period as well. I know you've talked about this. I know these are bullish. Well, I mean, Microsoft's been a bullish stock. And I know there's been a nice little bounce in some of these names, but starting to show some signs of weakness after their reports. What are your thoughts on those two specifically? Because I feel like I always want to ask you about Tesla and Softy.
Of course. So, I mean, these two right here are absolutely critical. If you look at the NASDAQ, the one piece of hope that I have that the market can keep going higher here is the fact that the NASDAQ is up above the 50 simple, right? So you've got the NASDAQ up above the 50 simple. It stayed there for 3 days. So we're, clinging and holding on. But as you point out, when you have some of these heavy hitters that they're not up above the 50 simple, and that means that they're below that critical area of resistance. So basically, right now you have Microsoft and you also have Tesla that are giving us a little bit of a warning sign in the market, because while you have a couple of these others, Apple did surprisingly well after earnings and is holding up really well. And you have Amazon, of course, that made the new high today along with Google. The NASDAQ can keep going higher, with some of these others, but it would be a lot better and a lot more helpful if Microsoft and Tesla were involved. And right now they're not. So if they can't get back above that 50 simple, those stocks are going to struggle, and we're probably going to be able to trade them to the downside.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting the way you frame that. The way I've sort of thought about some of these is like when the stars start aligning again, then it's going to be much more clear either back to the upside or that we're headed down. And what I mean by that is when this group starts acting a little bit more like a group. You don't get Amazon breaking highs by itself and then still have, you know, Nvidia. I mean, Apple's going up too as well, but then still have weakness over in Microsoft. They start aligning like they were before, I think we can go. The problem is that works in both ways, I think, for a lot of people. And just for everyone out there, I just want to mention Unity did come out and they are going lower, but it's an inside, looks like an inside move for them because they're only down like 0.5%, which I find, and you can tell me if you feel the same way, but when a stock that has, it's like a 10% short float, you really only care about this thing when it starts moving, I just don't even get remotely excited if this is up or down 5% after earnings. And I find myself sitting out unless it makes some kind of a move into a big level. Trading tomorrow, I'm not excited at all about Unity if it just stayed within the range and didn't come anywhere near expectations. Do you even care when something like a Unity doesn't give you enough juice, I suppose? Like Mara is more exciting?
Definitely not, because I mean, especially when you look at Unity, the thing about it is it's in a downtrend. So in order for me to be excited about a short squeeze, I mean, it has to be an actual shift in trend higher. So with this chart, I mean, maybe above 25, you'd get a little bit. 27 would be better. Up above 28.5 would be best to see an actual short squeeze. And so, you know, as you pointed out, you're trading at 24 right now, and the expected move is $22.86. So you would really need to see at least an expected move, ideally twice the expected move, for me to get excited about a short squeeze in this name. The kind of tickers that I look at for short squeezes are going to be something like this. This is one that I was trading today because somebody in our trading room pointed it out. I've never traded this stock before, never even looked at the name. And somebody asked me about it yesterday and said, hey, you know, this one has high short float and you're going into earnings. Is this something we can buy? And this is actually like a perfect example of the pattern that I look for. You know, you want to see something where you've shifted into a nice upward trend. Last quarter, you had a big breakaway gap that never came back to fill. You're going into earnings right near a previous high. You have a bunch of consolidation, and then the expected move was within range of making a new high. So when I see short squeeze, a potential short squeeze with high short interest with this pattern, that's exactly what I want. Unity's like, you know, maybe could trade it, but probably not.
Yeah, I was looking at, like, if I look at the chart and I was short the stock, would I even be thinking about it or caring about it? And the answer with Unity is no. And when you look at that chart of AppLovin, I mean, pardon my French, but you'd be crapping your pants if you're short that stock. Let's be real for a second. Like, unless somehow magically you've got whatever, like, it's at fresh highs. No, there's actually no price that you could have unless you literally shorted it at the top today, which good for you if you did. But I think you're absolutely right about that. No matter what kind of a trader you are, whether you're trading options, whether you're a day trader, whether you're a swing trader, you need there to be some kind of a catalyst. And we say this time and time again. It's one thing to look at levels on a chart or have an idea, or for a number to be there, like a 13% or 20% short float. It doesn't matter if there isn't actually a reason for other people to act. And that's what you want to have in there. So thank you so much for that, Danielle. And actually, I appreciate you bringing up AppLovin. I'm glad your community found this one, because that kind of a level is exactly where you could see some continuation on a squeeze. So we should all be looking at this potentially for some follow through tomorrow and maybe in the next coming days and weeks. Is there anything else you want to leave us with, something you're looking forward to? I know we haven't even had Nvidia yet in earnings season, so there's still a heck of a lot to get to. Is there anything you want to leave us with?
You know, Nvidia was the one that I was going to bring up, and that's because, I mean, we talked about the other mega cap tech names, but I mean, Nvidia is the most important right here, and Nvidia has earnings coming up on the 22nd. I think that a lot of this rally and the continuation of this rally is going to depend on Nvidia. Right now, chart pattern looks great. We've been rallying into earnings. We're holding up above the 50 simple. But I mean, they have got to perform on this earnings report because SMH staying up above the 50 simple is going to depend on these results. And, you know, while I love Nvidia, the stock's been great. I am cautioning my traders because here's the thing. We've seen a lot of companies this quarter come out and have great EPS numbers and great revenue numbers and even strong guidance, and they've still gotten hammered just because the expectations are so high. So while I like Nvidia, you know, it's one of my top stocks in my portfolio, and of course I trade it all the time, I am a little bit concerned about this report just because expectations are so high.
As I log in and sell all my Nvidia shares, no, I wouldn't do that. Or would I? No, no, I'm joking around. But you made one really good point there. I remember reading like we have to read almost every single report just to be familiar with even things that we might not trade when we're doing a live show. It's a responsibility to the viewers, in my opinion. But I was going through some of the Roblox. I'm like, okay, good, kind of bad, good, kind of bad. It's like when we're down, what? And it was the same thing with ARM. It's like good, bad, good. And it was down like 8% at one point. It's like, okay, well, if Nvidia misses even like by like a smidgen, if they have like a hair out of place, then they're going to be in trouble. It makes a lot of sense to me. So thank you for ending on exactly what I think everyone wanted to hear, which is what's going on with Nvidia. It's the last massive shoe to drop. As always, fantastic guests. They can check you out at Trader Danielle on your YouTube page if you want to learn about options and eventually get some nice sweaters.
That's right. Thank you for having me. I always love joining you.
Appreciate it. Take care, Danielle. And we'll talk. We'll have you back on next week. Look forward to it. And it's going to be exciting when Nvidia comes out, hopefully to the upside, as we all want.
Thank you.
But you never know. And that's sort of the thing. Like today, I would have told you, Adara, my thought would have been, Mara. It's just everything was set up for this. And that EPS beat, I still feel like maybe there's something about that EPS number that we have to check on. Because Mara, despite that massive beat, it actually tagged underneath 19. Got all the way down in here to like 18.5, continuing to flush down in. So despite being out of the S&P 600, despite there actually being a top line beat, they're still getting absolutely smoked. SOUN was the other big one. Just going over some of these. SOUN actually bounced pretty nicely and recovered. So a bit of an inside move for them, not really holding underneath those lows. Unity Software, as we mentioned, still trading lower, but very much inside. 5% up, then 5% down. If it hangs out here, I think you got a bit of a nothing burger. The shorts are not even remotely scared by that move. It never broke high enough to scare people. It's not really flushing low enough that a lot has changed in here. So at the end of the day, it's all about waiting and getting those fantastic opportunities and the best opportunities. And I've said this before, just because there's earnings or just because there is a good catalyst that morning or a shiny new thing, do not forget what worked the day before. I made that mistake big time, and I did this in the lesson of the day, and I'm only waxing poetic on this because there was a point in the morning show and you could rewind it back. I was looking for two separate dip buys. One was in Robinhood, who reported today and had a lot of expected volume. The volume was obviously through the roof. I could have dip bought that off 18 or Palantir off 21. Palantir was the post-earnings play, maybe not as exciting, a couple days past earnings, but it had bounced off 21 and already worked the day before. Robinhood, I was kind of looking at that level saying, hey, is it going to work? It's a good setup, but just go to the one that worked the day before. And it was a huge difference. Like I think it went 15 cents on Robinhood, and then I think I lost like 12 cents on the way back in. So it was a flat trade on that long. But Palantir held to 21. Next thing you know, it was at like 21.60, 21.70. It was easily a 3 to 4x risk to reward move, and that's just stock picking. Yeah. And I could have picked the easier one, the one that worked before. That's why we go over these things, everybody, so that everybody can get better. Every day is a good learning experience for all of us. Just very quickly, I just heard Fabian's like, damn right. That's what it's all about here. It's already 4:30.
How?
How does this happen?
Time flies.
Why you always? It felt like we had such a fantastic guest, and we already talked about Roblox in there. And that's going to be a good one. Do not sleep on that. That's also going to be a day 2 play tomorrow. Caught a heck of a bid. But I want to make sure we get this roll call in for everybody. We got to do a roll call. Come on, son. Let's be real about it for a second. So get it in there. And I'm going to do, whenever I fill in for Shawn, I'm going to always start with Bears versus Bulls. The best moderator in the absolute business, all day, every day. He starts the day off by saying, good morning to the Breakfast Club. And he's always asking, like, how was your night last night? I hope you had fun with the kids. He somehow remembers every single thing that Shawn or I have ever said we're going to be doing with the kids. I think it's absolutely amazing. And it's very supportive of all the trades, doing a great job in there. Mr. Westermeyer, I see you in there. Danielle Shea in the chat, thank you for being an amazing guest, like you always are. I'm still going to want that sweater. Thank you very much. Shout out to T. Lee, Tesla cracking lower. That sucks for everybody because most of us own it. Martina, shout out to you. Mina, letting us know the SoundHound is still bad because we already saw it. Sebastian, Aldrich, B-Bot in there, the boring man. Anthony Kerr, you're in the house. I'm here too, but you are more important. You guys are the viewers. Havana Woody, what up? Talk to you today. Thank you for all the positive comments. Why not? Yeah, why not check us out every single day, and why not check out the podcast as well, which is on a new channel, Freedom and Wealth. Alan, shout out to you. Maria, Darwin, Francis, Asta, T. Lee, Ron Miller, Michelle Meir, 4L Taz, Yoel, S. Samuel, Poco Traveler, FFTB, Shane Dubb, Howell Capital Trading. Great show because you guys are the best and you deserve it. Aaron, Scott, Matthews. That just sounds like, Aaron Scott Matthews. That's one of those names, like you probably president of your your student council.
Yeah.
And all, like Aaron
We're
Scott
in a boy
Matthews.
band, like it has
I had to
presence.
stop. I had to stop on that.
Yeah.
2 first names and then
Three
Matthews.
first names, kind of.
3 first, yeah.
Well,
it's kinda,
Matthews.
kind of.
Yeah.
Anyways, you just stopped my tracks in there, so you know you win on that one for sure. Aldrich, who else we got here? Anthony Kerr, J Muck, DJT, what have I? Silverado, Janik, Sherry Punjab, and Chef Anthony, thank you very much as well. Paula Blackford, Silverado, DJ Marshall, they're flipping past fast now. Michael P, T Daddy, Force Builder X. Okay, I'm a little bit out of breath. So there you go. We appreciate you guys so much. Adara, thank you. I'm filling in for Shawn. I mean, obviously, he does it on a regular basis. Just so everybody knows, Adara preps the topics. These are expected moves in case I don't know what it is. This is what's reporting. And she does all the watch list stuff in the morning, getting in first person in the building. It's not a single trader in the floor that even gets here before Adara. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Neil and I are always here within like 2 minutes of each other. We're always here nice and early. We're like, oh, that thing moved. So yeah, and thank you so much, Neil, as well, for being here and killing it. And thank you, Danielle and Bears versus Bulls. I'm always just happy to be here. That's always my thing.
That's because trading is the best job in the world. Why? Because you eat what you kill, and the market's a little bit different every single day. It's the same rules, same game, but it's never the same thing twice. That's why we all love it. That's why I love you. We'll check us out tomorrow morning, 8:30. As always, wrap up an amazing trading week. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Take care, everybody.
That was a cool shot. It was like the end of the day.